Committee of the whole meeting to order for Wednesday, February the 26th. Approval of the agenda that the February 26, 2020 Committee of the whole meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Moved and second. All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, that the minutes of the Committee of the whole meeting held November the 25th, 2019 be adopted as presented. Moved second. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting held December the 2nd, 2019 be adopted as presented. Moved. Second. Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Over to other pertinent business. To our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, it's that time again, obviously. Basically, just a little intro. I'm going to go through basically the same process as I did last year, prior year. And once again, I provided you with a color legend outlining everything in each of the funds that's we're either bound by bylaw. Insurance premiums, for example, are already set and paid for. Wages are either for contracts or policies. We have utilities where we really don't have much room to work with. There's some revenue items that are in yellow that we've already sent bills out, so we're confident in the amounts there. And there's a few items that are set by other agencies. And we also obviously have contractual and agreement and lease obligations that we're tied to, so those are numbers that we can't change. I'll leave the taxation discussion till the end, and then I'll go through these scenarios with you. So basically, I'll just go through this page by page and hit items that are significant or new for this year that weren't there maybe last year. Anything that I'm not touching on are basically consistent with prior years, so there's not much discussion on that. So up on the first page, there's really nothing new. These are all based on outside of the taxation. The ones at the bottom of page 1 are based on prior year's amounts that we received. On page 2, first half of the page, that's all regional district and other taxing agencies, so those numbers don't have an effect on the bottom line. The only difference being is that it shows $25,000 net there. That's offset by the transit grant that we get. And that basically that $25,000 is a reduction in the regional district requisition. We have utility taxes there. We get letters every fall, so those numbers are for what we're going to get for 2020. Bottom of that page, basically, these are just the numbers that were consistent with the prior year that we received. Page 3. Nothing's really changed there. The ones that are colored there, we do have signed agreements for fire protection agreements. Page 4. The ones there, the residential for waste management, those new revenue numbers are based on the new rates, based on the new contract that we have. Recycle BC revenue is a pretty good estimate from what we've been receiving monthly since we first entered that program. Cemetery is a tough one to budget for, so I won't get into that one. And then down at the bottom of page 4, you'll just see one's colored, and that's where we have rental agreements in place, so we know what the rental revenue is. Page 5. Basically, if you go down to the conditional grant section, we have our gas tax, I mentioned the Fraser Health Transit Subsidy. The other grants there are ones that we've put in applications. The bottom two in that section are carry forwards from last year that we haven't got any results yet, so we've got in this year's plan. And the three in the middle for UBCM are ones that we've either applied for or going to apply for, and they're basically offset from the grant and the expenditure side in the rest of the budget, and I'll touch on them when we hit those. The victims' assistance is a pretty confirmed figure, and same with the bottom two there, the tourism and the street lighting grant. On the last page of the revenue, on page 6, to balance this budget, I've got transfer from surplus at this point in time at 377.3. I think last year we were in the range of about 310. And then we have reserve transfers. The 375 for the fire department is a carry forward because we've only paid partially for the fire truck. The balance will come in 2020, so that's the balance of the reserve transfer. So as you're probably aware, the fire truck was paid out of reserves, so there's no additional hit on taxation on that. The future expenditure is our portion for the Richmond Hill, if we were here from that. Same with the Othello Road. And then projected gas tax reserve monies to pay for the annual pavement projects. Probably won't be that high, but it is balancing off what is currently on the expenditure side. There's 75,000 out of the station house reserve. That's for the demo of the building if it comes to that for this year. And that's offset with the corresponding expense. And then the platforms are a commitment already paid for, so that's coming out of the DSAC reserve. That's for last year's resolution.
Can I ask one question? The station house reserve, is that the 650,000?
Yeah, I called it that for lack of it, because it was related to it, so it's not, it can be renamed or transferred. Moving on to expenditures on page 7. Nothing really significance that's any change for the upcoming year. Page 8. Again, I don't see anything that is new or significantly changed from the prior year. Page 9. The one item I guess I could talk about on this page is under the municipal office contracts. I have an estimate in this draft right now of $25,000 for the upstairs reception area. That was budgeted initially, I think, 2 budgets ago when we did the renos to the building, but due to time constraints, it never got done that year. So we would like to update the 1970s look, but also make the upstairs more functional. Staff have been working with a designer to get some quotes and designs that will make it a little bit more efficient upstairs. That's about it on page 9. Page 10. Again, nothing significantly different from prior years. Page 11. Again, nothing significantly different in the IT section or the VAP section. Page 12. We have the grants. These that have been committed by resolution. And then the 3 line items that are in there as well from prior years and prior year resolution. under the Tourist Information Center, there's $150,000 under building contracts, and I may just get Kevin to expand on that.
Yeah, so the 150,000 is just an estimate at this point, of what the cost would be there to, essentially set up a temporary building. Not the lease per se, the lease is only a lease amount there, but, to set up a temporary building, have the old one all the way, get the hazardous materials survey done of the existing facility, and the demolition. I don't have all the costs in yet, but need a placeholder in the budget.
So that number could change in the next few weeks as new information comes in. And then as you see on the bottom, page 12 under Station House contracts, that's the $75,000 demo that was going to be offset by the reserve transfer.
So was that on top of the 150?
No, that's the Station House demo.
Yeah.
The 150 was for the actual.
150 is for the tourists. Page 13. Nothing really significant there, no changes or all consistent with prior year. Same with page 14. There are some building R&M there. Fire chief would like to get done. Page 15 and half of page 16 are basically the fire department vehicles, and again, they're all consistent with prior years, and the insurance premiums are set. Starting with bylaw, there's no real significant changes in the bylaw department and the operating. Page 17. Don't see anything there that stands out that's new or more than prior years. Page 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And most of 28 are all the public works vehicle accounts. As you can see, there's some color there, so we're committed on most of the expenses, the ones that are estimates and discussions with Kevin and the mechanic are projected repairs on each vehicle, so if there's questions on those.
Just one general question, I guess, I probably asked this in previous years, but when you got wages and benefits separated out for each unit, is that
That's the mechanic's
mechanics
wages.
time
Yeah.
broken out?
Yeah,
So they would all add up to his wage?
exactly.
Wages and benefit.
His particular wage is basically spread amongst the vehicles and some equipment.
Yeah.
Whereas the other public works employees, depending on, we split out the roads crew between ice and snow removal and road work, and then the utilities, they may do some work in the general fund, so a minor amount of their wages may be included in the general fund. But there are obviously dedicated utilities employees that are strictly in the water and sewer fund.
Can I just one question? I know I talked about it a while ago, but did you guys ever, I know we were talking about, I think it's the ditch flail mower and that. Did you guys use that quite a bit this year? Or you guys just thinking, hearing the idea of possibly send it to auction, but?
No, we didn't use it any more than we have in previous years. It gets about 4 to 6 weeks use
Yeah.
in any given year. Right now, we're working on different options. I mean, the main reason, it's not really a roadside mower.
No, it's
For
big,
that,
it's a
but
big
it doesn't do a
one.
very good job of it. The main reason it was purchased was to mow the dikes that we're responsible for. That's why it's got a big heavy brush cutter on it, because that's what the brush cutter is gonna be used for, is cutting down saplings on the dikes. Problem with it is it doesn't actually reach as far as we need it to reach. So we're working actually on getting a quote from a local contractor that has an excavator with a brush cutter. Seeing what that's gonna look like to do our dikes. And then I'm gonna look at other options for a roadside mower.
Just one more quick question. I don't know if it's in here or not, but the paving machine we have, is it in here? Okay.
The Mac?
Yeah, it's in here, it's the 92 Mac.
Okay.
Page 24. Page 24.
24?
I think that can get sold too.
No, I was just thinking, I was wondering how often we use, like, is that in relation to like the patching, the patching tails?
Yeah, so we'll go to Hurley Island to the plant
plant,
and
yeah.
get hot mix.
Okay.
And
When
truck.
are they?
When the plant, the problem with the truck is it requires a lot of crew to run it,
Okay.
between 5 and 7 people if you're doing traffic control in-house. And
It's not something you can just drive around town and just, like the patching?
No, and then we rely on the plant being open
Okay.
on any given day, and then of course the weather. So, you know, ideally we'd like to use it more, because it's a lot cheaper than bringing in a contractor. But what we're finding is with all those variables, we never find the perfect day to get it out. We did use it a little bit last year, but you know, at this point in time, it doesn't really owe us anything.
Okay.
So, you know, the operations manager is determined to use it this year. So,
Good, yeah.
see how the year plays out with that piece of equipment, and if it's not seeing any more use, then we'll look at getting rid of it.
I just thought we were going into patching season, I guess we call it this time of year, but good, thanks.
I see the money for these repairs are gonna be less this year, it looks like.
Estimating.
Well, yeah, I mean, due to the low usage, I'm basically deferring the repairs. The repairs were for some of the heating functions and a few other things that aren't absolutely necessary to run it, so. Because by the time we pick up the hot mix and get it down, it's still warm, so. And, you know, the other thing is, it's kind of a lower priority for us as far as the fleet goes, so the mechanic finds that he doesn't actually get to doing that work on it, so. I don't wanna spend a pile of money on it, it's old, we don't use it very often, it's working. So, I think that we're best just to keep it rolling, and if we have a big expense come up, then we have to make a decision on whether we want to keep it or not.
Unit 223, it's a 210 International, is that a gravel truck or?
Yeah, it's 5-ton dump truck. That's
Looks like your repair's gonna be a little higher on it than you're estimating.
that's average, what we spend on those trucks a year, what we budget on them a year. 222 is actually more.
He's for plowing too.
The reason for that is the head gasket leaking.
Yeah.
223 last year, we had the head gasket replaced on that.
Oh,
Max force.
oh, yeah.
If we move along into the capital, you'll see that I'm wanting to replace 222, so.
Yeah.
If we budget to replace it, that number's gonna disappear.
Thanks.
I still have to.
So, jumping to page 28. That's safety, and there's nothing significantly changed there. The one thing we started last year was I think it was last year, we set up the safety wage account because of the requirements of WCB and because of the requirements of safety meetings. So we wanted to track how much time we're spending in that area. So it's not a small amount, but it's basically a requirement. We have safety committee meetings that are required too, so we wanted to track the time in that account. Page 29 is the start of the parks departments. Nothing significant on that page with any change in park operations. Page 30, the same thing, there's no significant changes, although I just mentioned again, we have the 30,000 in there for the trails maintenance with the Hogan Health Center. Page 31, start roads. Nothing really changing from prior years. We have our best guess for ice and snow removal. See, the utilities are pretty much set. And insurance. Page. What's so? What's after?
Kevin, you know what the contracts are for Hell River Board?
Yeah, they're covered off, any tree needs, actually. Trees have been
Yeah.
rerotted in there. Every year we get, tree failure, and then there are someone. Skills maintenance.
That hasn't happened in the past.
2 years.
Do you own those traffic systems on Fellow Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were renting them for a long time. So
Okay, we did purchase them. I thought so. Makes sense.
Well, after this much time.
Well, yeah, you could have paid them off, yeah.
Release the line for the fire.
I think we had to replace the
I
sword.
talked about
It's still-
page 31. Yeah, talked about that one.
What is it
So
called?
moving to page 32,
Vandalism.
um,
Skeleton time.
for dike maintenance,
No, I don't think so.
we have 150,000 for a flood protection study. And I believe that was one of the UBCM grants that we were gonna apply for, yes.
Yes, it is.
So it's a UBCM grant, so that's covered there if we're successful.
That's the route we had to go after meeting with the minister at ICM.
And then also in the planning section, under contracts. We have 40,000 in there for a housing needs study, of which half of that would be a UBCM grant.
We got approval on that.
We have?
It's coming.
Okay.
Yes, we got approval on
And then, also in planning, there's survey contracts, that's, in the prior year, as well, consistent. And nothing significant in the building inspection area. Page 33, the new contract amount with Vantage Hope is there. And then under the waste management, we have contractual amounts, our best guess with the residential and commercial town garbage containers. And the rest of landfill and animal control, there's nothing, no significant changes there. Page 34. Oh, I've already done that.
So can I go back to that?
No, I haven't done this yet. Let's talk about those. Yeah, see if we go into right there. So page 34, it's got Ford Street building, Park Street, communities and bleeding washrooms and rec center. The only significant item there is rec center contracts, and maybe if I could get Kevin to expand on that one.
Yes, so there's, the building assessment was done in 2018, late 2018. And they've identified some bricks that are crumbling on the exterior facade, as well as some expansion joints that need to be redone and resealed on the exterior envelope. As well, inside the pool natatorium, there's 2 steel posts that hold up the roof. And you've seen corrosion over the years from the chlorine environment in there. And so they were tested last in 2011, just had been tested, and they are degrading. So my anticipation is once I send it over to a structural engineer, they're going to want us to basically break up the floor around the posts, inspect it thoroughly, and weld collars on and deal with the corrosion. So again, I don't know what the final determination is going to be. And so that's my best estimate of what this work might cost.
Page 35. Library, cemetery. Library rec is set by the FERL. Interest under debt financing, we did have one debenture that we paid off last year. So we saved, I think, about $152,000 principal in interest. And I believe bylaws 1080 and 1081, their final years this year. So that would just leave us with 2. The bridge borrowing, and also there's one sewer bylaw, I believe, that goes till 2023. So those, starting next year, we'll just have the 2, depending on what happens with the water. Pretty good shape that way.
Yes.
Page 36 is the principal on the marine bylaws, and then for reserves, the 369 is the amount of the infrastructure levy, which you'll see when I talk about the taxes, so that's going in there as that's its purpose. Fire capital reserve, I try to put in 50,000 every year to build up for the next fire truck purchase. And then the 18.3 is per the contracts with the First Nation for the capital component of those agreements. For this draft, we've put in 350 for the vehicle reserve, and our annual, which we started a few years back, the DSAC reserve. I will attempt for next meeting to give you a schedule of the reserves, just so you're all up to date on our balances as of December 31st. There'll also be a reserve policy that I initiated a couple years ago. I'm just bringing it back to council for updates. So we have an updated policy. A few minor changes. So that's the general fund. So maybe what I'll do before I get into the sewer and the water is jump back to taxation on page 1. So with the additional handout that I provided in your binders there, you see at the top, in this draft,
Is this the scenarios?
yeah.
What are those scenarios?
Yeah. So what the starting point anyways, is it's a 4% tax revenue increase over what we generated last year. And that generated $327,500 more over what we had exceed last year in 2019. So you can see the distribution there. And then also there's the police fund, there's the taxation on that when we get to it. So that's also included in this 327. So then what we did here is just to show you how this, at this particular revenue generating scenario, what some sample properties would look like based on their preliminary assessments that we received in January. So this one property in Silver Creek, for example, their assessment went down, and correspondingly they're going to pay around $50 less in taxes based on the tax rate, which goes up slightly. The tax rate goes from 3.93699 to 4.03575. That is not a 4% increase, just so you're not comparing apples to apples. The 4% is a total revenue increase, but the tax rate is correspondingly a lot less. The next sample property was a Kakwa lakefront property. Now in this case, their assessment did go up by 7%. So they're paying just under $500 more. And I think if you were to actually flip to the back page of that handout, just so you can see why these percentages are generating what they are, I've got a spreadsheet there comparing our 2020 completed roll, which we received in January, to last year's revised amount, which we received in April. So you can see overall there was only a 1.1% increase in residential, which in years, probably last 4 or 5, it's been like 20. So there has been an increase on utilities, but that's not hitting the residents or the business. Business did go up 8.3. So when you take those percentages into account, you'll see why some of these samples they're going down. Another one in town there, their assessment went up slightly at 1.95, so they're paying slightly more at 118. A property in the Lanston Road area, their assessment went down by 2.4%, so they're paying, in this case, $2.36 more. Another in-town sample property, their assessment went down, so again, they're paying just under $35 less. Another sample property in town, their assessment went down marginally. So with the slight increase in the tax rate, they're paying $15 more. And then another one, property where their assessment went up by about $6,000 because of this slight increase in the tax rate, they're going up $82. The next page is the business sample properties. One in town, their assessment actually didn't change at all. The business rate is actually going down from 10.27809 down to 9.76 in this scenario. So they'd be paying $670 less. The Silver Creek business, their assessment went down 2.28%, and they're paying about $3,300 less. Keep in mind this is all municipal taxes. Another business in town had a marginal increase in assessment, less than 1%, and they're paying almost $500 less. And another in-town business, no change at all, and because the tax rate went down, they're paying about $525 less. So those are some examples of what the rate has done when I generate this additional revenue. So last year, I think council, if memory serves me, we increased revenue of about just over 400,000, I think. So, depending on what appetite council has, like, you know, at future meetings, I can do some other scenarios for you or whatever you wish. But that was the starting point that I would start at the 327,000 figure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to make sure that I get it straight, you're saying that this year, this scenario is about a 4% increase,
We're increasing the overall revenue 4%.
4%.
And then also keep in mind too that some of that revenue, new revenue is new construction, so that's just my tax calculation sheet here. We're getting another 180,000 out of that 327 from new construction. So that's assessments that were not on last year's roll, so new buildings, that type of thing. So out of the 327 that I increased it, 180,000 of that can be attributed to new construction.
So basically, we're not really raising at 4% because of the construction of 180,000 included in this 327, right? But that's, I understand it's part of it, but as far as the overall taxation to the residents.
Overall taxation in our budget,
Yeah.
like what we received in taxation last year, and what I've got in this budget right now, there's $327,500 more dollars generated. And as I said, I can attribute that to about 180,000. That's new construction. Now, if that new construction wasn't there, that means the assessments would be a bit lower, and the rates would go up slightly, if we're gonna get the same 327,000. So I guess I can leave that for council to digest, and if for the next meeting, at the end of this meeting, if you want me to provide you with more scenarios to show which way it goes. I mean, obviously, generating more revenue is going to increase the rates. That goes without saying. And obviously, lowering that from that 327 is going to have a positive impact on the rate, meaning that go down slightly. I just wanted to give you this as a kind of a really good starting point to consider, because also if everything stayed the same in this budget, then if we generate less revenue, then there'd be more impact on the transfer from surplus. Personally, I like to keep it in the 300,000 or 400,000 range. Because what that's doing is it's softening the blow for the taxpayer, because if I didn't have that 400,000 in there, I'd have to generate $400,000 more, so I don't want to do that.
I don't think we have the appetite for that.
No, not today.
All right, so then sewer fund, next tab. Okay.
Yeah. Should be.
Should be another tab.
It's after page
It'll be up.
6.
After page 36. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so for and again, all these funds are balanced going into this. Page 1 of the sewer, we've got the yellow there, that's the amounts that we've already sent out for bills. Then we have the conditional grant, that's the provincial portion of the grant that we just applied for. And the sewer our portion, we have to come up with 355,000. So part of it, we're gonna go half with sewer DCC revenue and the other half with the sewer reserve. And that's, I'll talk about that momentarily. Page 2. Under sewer maintenance, we have a balance of the master plan to pay for from last year. And that's about the only real significant change there. Page 3 of the sewer fund. Basically, the only item there is, I've got the 177.5 for the balance of our funding for that project, and then 5,000 with the balance of the fund down to 0. So not a lot of significant changes in the sewer fund for this year outside of the application for the capital project for the outfall.
There are a couple items in here that have changed a bit. Under the PCC section, the utilities, we've increased that. That's an estimate of basically electrical usage. I'm not sure exactly how much electrical we're going to use with the DAF plant. So we've got that to account for that. And then under materials, supplies, and freight, we also have chemicals that we just purchased that are needed for running the DAF plant. So that's increased as well.
That's good. Over to the water fund, the next tab. There's 3 pages of the water fund. Once again, most of the revenue has been determined outside of the commercial. The bulk water fees charges has gone down significantly for revenue due to the fact that we're not charging 753 anymore. Page 2.
You'll be getting some income from 753, right? Is that written in here? Is that properly so?
That'll be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the deal's gone through. So it gives me the green light to send out those bills. So that would add to our, that would increase the revenue on the water side, which what I would probably do is just whatever we gain in revenue from that is thrown into the water reserve. Unless Kevin's got any other last minute things to change that, but that's my preference, is to keep building up those reserves. Page.
Dale, excuse me.
Just a question, I think it's the same as sewer, but why is these water funds broken out by different areas of the district? The rates are the same all over, aren't they?
That's,
Just
you have
historical.
to ask somebody before me.
Okay. I just found it.
I just followed suit.
But if we had different fees for different areas, that would make sense.
No,
But it's all
yeah.
the same.
I think it's just, it was set up that way just to.
I think it was an amalgamation.
Oh, yeah.
Came in from regional districts and then five.
Oh, okay. Just always.
No, I agree, I mean, there's no different rates, so.
Yeah.
And so the money that's coming in from 753, the reserve that 753 has, that just gonna go into the water reserve 2 fund? Water
I
reserve
haven't
fund?
seen what's coming over on the books from them, but,
Well, we don't know that yet.
yeah, I haven't seen the numbers, they're not gonna be huge.
So I thought we were told that there was 275,000 in reserve.
I haven't seen any numbers.
Okay, so
So I
when it
can't
comes in,
comment.
it's just gonna go into the reserve, water reserve?
If that's what that's what I'd probably put it.
Okay.
Any legal on our behalf will come out of that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the net amount is. John probably has the documents on his desk.
Well, whatever it is, it will just go into the reserve fund, not into general revenue.
No,
No.
I would keep it in water.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's,
yeah, good.
Page 2, I don't see anything different there. I don't know if, I don't see anything that's significantly different. 3. I don't see anything much change from prior years. The balancing figure I have right now on the water fund, and again, that can change, is the 35,000 right now. But that potentially could go up, depending on how much we get from the billing for this year. And I think we've tried this project too to invest is with the infrastructure taken on, there's obviously more in operating costs, power to the pumps, et cetera, et cetera. So 2019 should be a decent year for us to make better. This year should be a better year for next year's budget for when all those type of expenses come in. Finally, the police fund. Again, that the revenue in the police fund is its portion of the 327.5 that's applicable to the police fund is reflected in this draft. And overall, I'm using just under 220,000 to balance the police fund with the prior year's surplus. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think police fund ran in a deficit. I haven't got the financial statements done, but I glanced at the preliminary numbers. So all that happens there is that would just knock down the surplus account by 20 grand or whatever we came in short. But that's the idea of the transfer, is to limit the effect on taxation, because otherwise I'd have to generate another $220,000 on a police rate. So
I did mention to Director of Finance today that if the Surrey deal goes through and they leave the RCMP, we will experience some additional costs to our RCMP account. Some of the different programs that we share, IHIT, and some of the building costs, and their new labor union contract should kick in the fourth quarter. So we may or may not, all the mayors that currently have RCMP outside of the Surrey area do not want them to leave. We want the RCMP to stay, and we've just sent another letter off to Mr. Opal, Mr. Opal, with some further information. They have no idea what the costs are going to be in Surrey. They have no idea what it's going to cost to get out of Surrey, what our additional costs would be. So it's kind of a hard number to put down to try and add something here for the fourth quarter. And we'll just have to monitor it and come back to council when we have some solid numbers. So for now, I'm suggesting, as Director of Finance did, that we leave it alone, just as it is, and not deal with any potential numbers coming down the line and squirreling it away. I mean, what do you do? We're gonna have to wait and see. But it's something to think about down the line, that this will happen if they leave. Sorry.
okay, so moving on to capital. I'll basically just be the MC for this because I don't have anything in the capital budget, so Kevin and can probably steal the show. Okay, so page 1 of 2 on capital, the emergency services capital equipment.
I have nothing in capital.
I can't remember what this is for, but I do know that. Oh, you have nothing in capital?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were joking, saying you don't have anything that you want to buy.
There's nothing in the back.
He wants to get out of here in a hurry.
Okay.
You can have mine.
Someone gave me, is that an extra, Craig?
I can share.
All right, thank you.
My apologies, I don't know. You can have mine.
I'm not handing it out tonight.
Does everyone else have capital?
Yeah.
Just want to confirm, yeah, the first item there is the emergency services capital equipment. That's through the fire chief. I don't remember what it is, but I do know that there's an offsetting UBC grant
Ask it. You're talking about some of the truck.
I have a feeling it's for backup generation for this building,
Yes.
because this is the EOC.
Yeah,
I'm
So-
just confirming it right now.
but it is through the grant as far as our budget goes, that's financed through that, successful. Fire capital vehicles, that's the balance of the fire engine we're committed to. We have an addition for
Is that vehicle coming this year?
this year, yes.
I'm assuming it's offsetting the 1986 engine that was in the budget.
Yes. One of the old ones, yeah.
The
86.
It's in the budget, yeah.
Ford or whatever it is.
It's a 1985?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's, we still have it, we've taken all the gear off of it, we're not using it anymore.
Oh, okay.
For this draft, we have a new bylaw vehicle that's, this existing one's quite ancient, and I think it's time before we start putting a lot into it. I don't know what year it is off the top of my head, it's
2004.
yeah,
2004 now.
so it's 16 years old, so. The next three under roads and streets, Richmond Hill and Othello are carry forwards with the offsetting grant monies that I've talked about earlier. The 1.2 is in our pavement management plan annually. Basically, it's not been that much each year, but we do have it in the budget depending on what Kevin can get done.
Do you have specifics on what's, you know,
Maybe.
what areas?
Robertson Crescent.
I was supposed to last year, we chose to wait or something.
Yeah, we've been putting that one off for a few years.
Yeah.
So Robertson Crescent, 7th Avenue from Wallace to Park. It's a really rough section in there. And
Full waiting there, or just travel?
full rebuild there. Yeah,
That's about it.
full rebuild on Robertson Crescent.
Sidewalks, yeah.
We won't be extending sidewalks down there. Not this time anyways, we're still working on the design. And then the third piece is to, if you'll recall when we had Tetra Tech come in and present the pavement management plan, you never lose the opportunity to rebuild the road,
Right.
but you do lose the opportunity to save it. So there's a section of Third between Old Hope Princeton Way and CN Rail, that if something's not done immediately, we're gonna be into a full rebuild, so we're just gonna do like a grind and a pave on that section. And that's, we'll see where that takes us. There's a few other small areas in my back pocket should we come up short on 129. We've got a few other options.
Underground works.
We look at all the underground infrastructure. As a matter of fact, there will be some water, see there's some water capital in here, should be somewhere. Yeah, water capital, water mains. So there's, through our water master plan, we're actually able to do some of these upgrades simultaneously with the paving program. For instance, on Robertson Crescent, there's some fire hydrants that do not meet the minimum fire flow. So we're having to connect them to 6-inch mains off the 4-inch mains. That solves that problem. We're also adding some hydrants because there's some spacing issues, don't need a bylaw. And then over on 7th as well, there's a hydrant that's connected to a piece of 4-inch main, and we'll be relocating that to a larger main as part of the paving project.
Have we called for tender yet or anything? Or?
Not yet. No, the goal is to get the tender out by the end of March.
No, the last year's work was excellent, Doug.
Yeah.
And the year before too. Year before that, not so great. It does help by having your budget way ahead of time to do blacktop.
It's true.
It can be in years past, like I know I've heard of, from talking to a guy from 100 Mile House, and they've done a lot of this in their thing. Have we ever, in years past, maybe before you've done chip sealing around here?
Well, like crack sealing.
Yeah, like, I know like 100 Miles, I don't know the actual process of doing it, but I know it's not as smooth, obviously, the payment, but it's a nice, cheaper version
The Yukon does it,
of, yeah, quite a bit.
Oh,
and it's,
gets traction.
Yeah,
For
oh, that's
sure.
rough.
Yeah, well, you need chip seal, okay, I know what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like
Tires are
hard
like
ground
a
vehicle.
Yeah.
it's not as smooth a pavement.
You're not getting as good a product.
No,
but, yeah.
I thought maybe lesser priority roads or something like that, but,
Is that
or like Union Bar Road.
Is anything going in for Ross Road this year?
No.
Oh, because I had group of natives, they contacted me and they were upset. They're gonna put a blockage on Ross Road. They're gonna block Ross Road off.
Part of that.
Where did that reserve in there?
Chihuahua just told me that this
That we
morning.
maintain.
It's
Yeah,
reserved.
the road that's broken up is partly on reserve.
But it goes up the hill toward, and down toward, Mount Lowell Hill, they're gonna block it off. He said. They just told me that today.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak to that.
So, cause it's so bumpy, it's really, really bad coming down the hill.
We graded as often as we have resources
But
available.
I think you got, there's a lot of failures. So maybe you can take some of the chips from London, haul it up there. I don't know, I
We
just,
do that, but we have limited resources, so.
well, I guess she's on Chihuahua Council and she said we're gonna block the road out, if it doesn't get fixed. Can I
Well-
see this guy? We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's just-
So Kevin, maybe you just wanna carry on there. and
Yeah,
get
I'll
the
carry
rest
on.
of
We're
the
gonna
pages.
carry on off here. So we got the bylaw vehicle, it's a 2004. There's we deferred maintenance on it because of its age. And there's a number of issues with it, suspension, drivetrain. It's basically at the end of its useful life. We got the Richmond Hill pathway.
Yeah, covered those.
Grant, covered all that?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
started vehicles and put them there.
So capital vehicles, every year we bring on an additional 4 time-rated staff. And part of my strategy from the outset in 2016 was to scale the vehicle fleet back to see what we actually need. And as a result of last year, there was quite a number of days where we didn't have the number of vehicles we needed. So the 35,000 is an addition of a pickup truck to the fleet.
A new one?
Sorry?
A new one?
New one, yes. And $275,000 to replace Unit 222. That's a 2008 dump truck. We've managed to extend its useful life by a few years. Typically with the winter maintenance vehicles, you're gonna get about 10 years out of it. That's the research that I received from other fleet managers. So that's in at 275,000.
Ask you a question.
Yeah.
So that's got like a plow on it and everything. Can that still be used on another vehicle, or is it like get rid of it altogether?
Well, typically you get rid of it altogether because you get a little better resale on it.
Okay,
And the mounts are all different
right.
for these types of plows, so we actually have to take the mount off of it and put it on a new truck, and that doesn't always fit. So it's just easier, to go all
Is
in
it
with.
keeping in the fleet just as a spare, or is it?
I'll go through kind of my strategy here. So we got another 140,000 in for 2 tractor mowers with attachments. Now, right now we have a couple of parks mowers, but there's a lot of manual labor in the parks department, and we have limited resources. My strategy is to get equipment that will do multiple things for us. So we're looking at different options. These numbers are based on the most ideal option in my mind, but I have the operations manager working with the crew on the best fit for us. But the intent is for us to take winter sidewalk maintenance in-house.
Would they be like really compact?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this would be a machine that will mow in the summertime. It will have a vacuum system on it to, instead of blowing leaves with a backpack blower, with 3 people in the park. That's good. I mean, with the machine, that'll suck them all up and you have them in the back of the truck. You can get a stump grinder for it, you can get a ball binding rate.
Just runs off the PTO off the bat.
Yeah, it's got a, I don't know exactly how it operates the attachments, but it's got a little bucket you can put on in front of it. It's not your Cadillac machine, but it will plow sidewalks, and you put a sweeper on the front of it.
That's what I saw yesterday. I saw somebody driving a little red tractor up past Sheridan Deli yesterday.
That's the demo.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured so, and I saw it drive up Route 1.
Yeah, so there's a number of different brands.
And there's a big vacuum on it.
It's got a vacuum that'll, use the mower deck and it sucks it up into a hopper. So we can get more done with a machine that works more efficiently for us. And our crew is aging as well, and this makes it easier for them. There's a lot of manual labor that goes into the maintenance, and it's tough on people. So-
In the fall, I would say was piled in the park for leaves. It's very labor intensive picking the leaves up. Everybody thinks it looks wonderful, but they definitely do a lot of work to make it look like that. So this would really help.
And so the idea there is we have 2 John Deere mowers that we're currently using, keep the newer one for backup machine. And sell the,
Will these be
Yes,
done?
sir. Okay,
Can I ask you a question? How much does it cost for sidewalks now?
we budget 40,000 a year, and we pretty well spend it. I think last year we were around 32, and it was a light year. One of the things with the sidewalk contract is, and it's a common thing, is snow removal contractors, they want a retainer. So you're paying them whether it snows or not, because they have to gear up, they have to have their staff and payroll. So to me, I'd rather spend that money on our own equipment, because I think in time, it'll pay itself back.
Has there been times where we've paid that guarantee and we haven't used it?
No, not yet,
So,
but that could happen.
It could,
Yeah.
but depends on how much the value of that guarantee is, but we've discussed this before, and why I'm more of a fan of contracting that particular service is because they can hit it hard. They get out there, several machines, and they get the sidewalks done quickly, where we don't even have sometimes enough operators to get the plow trucks going. For our own equipment.
Yeah, but we also always have people manually shoveling walkways. We have them manually salting letdowns. Whereas if you get a machine, you put a hopper on the back of it, it'll sand for you. One of the things with having a contract is you're paying them per cycle on the sidewalks. So if they're out there while they're typically, we're trying to balance it and wait for the snow event to be nearing the end before we get out there, because otherwise they go around and it looks like they've done nothing. And then you're paying them again, which is quite a bit of money to go around again. Whereas if we had it in-house, you send somebody out for the day, or 2 people, and just keep at it. And then if you need another shift, you throw another shift on, and just keep at it. So, from my experience, when I worked up in 100 Mile House, we did it all in-house, and it was a lot easier to deal with.
Like that idea.
Just put them out there right away, and you're plowing all day long, no matter how many times you have to go around.
If you have a body to do that, that works great, I suppose, right? But I just find that, I've heard that we don't have people to run.
Well, we do have the ability to bring on time rated.
When you're paying more, again. So you're adding resources again.
You are, but here's the thing, you're buying a piece of equipment that's not only doing the sidewalk.
No, I like the idea of using it, I like that idea, like I was thinking like I can't really call it. Bobcat makes something that's like a little utility vehicle that accepts all the Bobcat attachments.
Yeah.
Something like that I picture would be really useful for all sorts of things, like a mower, a sweeper, post hole digger, like you name it, they've got attachments for them. I don't know what those cost.
185,000.
Oh, okay, they're up there.
That's why it's not.
But it's very efficient, right? Like that type of machine, I guess that's what this tractor is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's the Bobcat Toolcat.
Toolcat, that's
And I purchased one of those for up north.
Yeah,
Wonderful machine,
yeah.
but again, it's $185,000.
That idea, I mean, they're not gonna make so much new, I don't know.
So in this scenario, we're getting 2 machines for less than the cost of one.
Plus attachments, I think that's their buying attachments.
What's the name of this machine? Who built it?
Ventrac or Steiner, they're basically the same.
Can you get, I remember when I was a kid, I always seen, we used to have a tractor that sidewalks, but can you get one that can maneuver around the telephone poles and the fire hydrants?
To maneuver around it?
Yeah, like, I mean, I know that's probably the big
Yeah,
concern
they
with the
have
sidewalks,
other
but it
pieces
can
of
get,
equipment, I mean.
people's
holders-
hedges grow into, I know they've, you can probably attest to it, but,
Holder is a big name. Trackless is a big name.
okay.
There's Wiley,
Yeah, well, you've done your research
but
about it.
they're all over $200,000, those machines. You know, and they'll do lots for you. They're wonderful machines,
We'll
but,
get you bang for your buck out of them.
you know, you need more than one if you're doing sidewalk maintenance. And so now you're into, $300,000 to $400,000
Yeah.
as opposed to 140.
Well, thank you.
So this 140,000, are they commercial machines that from me to work day in and day out?
Yeah, they've been around for about 35 years. Coquitlam currently runs about 12 of them for their sidewalks. They're locally supported, local dealers.
They have rooms on it?
You can get a broom, snow blower, plow.
Okay.
Okay, next is, mechanics asked for a portable mobile column lift.
Can you explain that for me?
Yeah, so it's instead of having a traditional hoist, these are 4 individual lifts that go on each wheel, and they're on a pallet jack, so you can move them around. And, so yeah, they're engineered, they're stable enough on their own, and you lift the vehicle up, you basically maneuver around with the wheels.
Oh, okay.
They'll lift anything from a pickup truck to a dump truck.
Yeah.
And like
So instead of having
the wheels.
a fixed hoist in the shop, which
Yeah.
can be in the way, when you're not using these mobile lifts, you tuck them in the corner. The current hoist that we have in there is a 4-post hoist, but it hasn't been inspected in years. We're told that there's a little bit of salvage value to it, but, I mean, to replace it, maybe it was only about $3,500, $4,000, so we wouldn't see much for surplus on that.
So that the,
Plus fleets typically out of the district.
no, the auto repair shop, Senate, he has these to work on Senate. Okay.
So we currently have no means of lifting the vehicle to work on it.
That surprises me.
And we haven't for a number of years. The Grizzly screen, that's just a rough estimate. It's something that was brought to my attention recently. So why we want that is we have all these asphalt millings, but they have chunks in them. And it's very hard to spread it efficiently when you've got all these chunks. Basically, the grader just grabs it and gouges out the work you've just done. So we want to have just a simple Grizzly screen that you just dump the material through that'll take the chunks out of it. Nothing fancy.
Yeah, actually did some pretty nice. It showed how much nicer it is to work and the finish and everything outside the product. It's way better.
We want to be able to reuse that material.
Yes.
That's why we have it, and it saves us a lot of money, so we need a means of screening so that it can be used. And we've got an engineering technologist now, who's helping with everything to do with asset management and projects, and he's also quite an experienced surveyor. We currently don't have any surveying equipment, so it's $40,000 a year for surveying equipment, so he can go out and capture infrastructure that we have in the field. And we've actually been quite diligent with mapping all of our infrastructure in our GIS program, but there is some stuff that's missing. This will allow him to do that.
So this is opposed to paying a surveyor to do it.
Opposed to paying a surveyor, and also, like, for example, we have a paving contract, he can go out there and he can spot check.
Exactly how big the area is.
Well, he can spot check, he can do area calculations, but he can also spot check grading
Okay.
as they're working it. So for example, last year we had a discrepancy between the survey that our engineering consultants did and the survey that the contractor did. So we had to pay our engineering consultant to come back and resurvey. That's something we could do in-house if we had to. But,
Yeah.
we need 2 new PCs, I should say 2 new PCs for Public Works Office. We're currently running on, one of them at least, we're running on the old PCs from down here that we repurchased, but it's causing us issues. And the server is, I've just extended the warranty for 1 year, but the server is recommended to be replaced.
We changed some of them last year, didn't we? Is this the last of them then?
Well, we changed computers down here,
Oh, okay.
but we didn't do anything else.
Well, that's, oh, okay.
We
This
did
is the
one
last of
computer for
them.
the new engineering tank, but.
I think we changed I upgraded our server, got a new server, I think it was 2018. As far as why you don't see anything in my capital budget is, when I first got here, we started a replacement program, and I did 3 or 4 a year. Last year, we rounded it out, so everybody's up to speed with Windows 10 and all this and that, so I'm hoping that I won't have to jump back into it for another 2 years, hopefully. And then I'll start the cycle again.
So page 2 of 2. Public Works capital improvements to the yard. Staff have asked for, and I'm in agreement, with some upgrades to the lunchroom we have in the shop.
That's actually a carry for it too. That never got to.
Yeah, I mean, like in other places around the district, I mean, we've had aging sales So I almost hate to invest money into it, but on the other hand, when you have rats and mice running around your lunchroom where your staff are eating, it's a workplace health and safety issue. So $20,000 is to make it a little bit more comfortable in there for them. Replacing the doors that have gaps under them, that don't close properly, new cabinets,
Bathrooms?
new fridge with a nice maker, and, no, this doesn't include renovating the bathroom, that would be additional.
We haven't spent any money in there in a long, long time.
I mean, I prefer to have the more long-term conversation about what we're gonna do with the facility as far as a replacement,
Yeah, we need to.
before we spend too much money in there,
Yeah.
because it is, in some ways, good money after bad.
Our strategic planning session, make sure you bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah, the diving platforms, I wasn't familiar with that one, but I understand that that's been approved by council. Sewer capital, so the service barge with crane, so we have the new aeration system in the lagoons. Now we need a means of servicing the aerators. So they sit at the bottom of the lagoon, and there's basically a tether that's on a float. But they're too heavy for a person to lift. So we need like a nice stable barge. They make it specifically for this reason, where you have just a hand crank crane that you swing off to the side and you bring it up and you set it on the platform and you work on it. So the diffusers and the aerators need to be inspected and changed if they're faulty, those type of things. So we currently don't have a means of, and some of our aerators are just from airflow moving around because they're not fixed. So we need to redistribute them again and that kind of thing. So to keep it safe for staff, the other option is to hire a crane truck, but then you still need you can't go out there and just your typical 12-foot fishing boat because you don't have the stability and you don't have a working platform. So
Overboard.
Yeah.
Overboard.
I'm not going to get
unfortunately, that's how it used to be
Hey,
done.
I would say it was a small boat.
So some of the stuff that we haven't been servicing properly because we don't have a right for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's one example is, they used to go out there in a fishing boat, just a little 12-foot aluminum, but it's dangerous because you have a guy leaning over the side of the boat trying to pull up an aerator. And, believe me, you don't want to swim in there.
Take your word for it.
So PCC upgrades, that's the permanent outfall network screening. And water capital water mains is for the miscellaneous upgrades that I spoke of in conjunction with the paving program. And then last year we had in the budget $100,000 for speed upgrades and carried over some of that. We currently have a path study underway that's looking at the communication between all of our sites and how we can improve that. And also other things like incorporating the cellular network in there we don't have line of sight. We're getting a lot of alarms that are nuisance, that are actually costing us money. Over time. Right.
4 hours.
So it's been years since the skate has been upgraded and technology's changed to where actually the price of the skate systems are coming down and the effectiveness of the communication piece has improved. So that's the idea, that money's there to finish the study and then actually get able to buy some equipment to upgrade each of our sites. And it's a phased thing. We're not planning on doing it all at once. We're going to upgrade some of the most troublesome spots to start with and then phase in the remainder. Some of our infrastructure we just don't have SCADA communications whatsoever. So with the SCADA, it's system control and data acquisition, so you can sit on your phone or your laptop, and you can change set points. For example, in a lift station, you can change it so that the pump will come on when it's 75% full. You can do all this remotely. You don't have to actually come in and stand it at the
And the alarm,
PLC.
let you know it's.
have an alarm right away, let you know what's happening. You can actually view trends, that type of thing, so you can troubleshoot from phone rather than always having to go out into the field.
So 753 reservoir getting fixed and all that stuff, that might not happen this year, by the sound of things, but
Yeah, that would eventually be built in.
it would need to be added to it.
Actually, we're looking at that location because of its line of sight. It's the location for one of the transmission towers through this project.
And that's draft number 1.
If you don't mind, I'd take a minute to talk about the requested transfer to the fleet reserve. So in here, there's $350,000. So I've done a 10-year replacement plan. I'm still fine tuning some of the numbers, adjusting for inflation, but right now we have
So we come back and realize previous.
Yeah, what was that? I remember talking about it.
Right now, we have 737,000.
What page?
Oh, sorry, page 36.
Oh, the last page of the general?
Yeah. So second line from the bottom, you see 350,000 there.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
So we currently have a reserve balance for the public works vehicle and equipment of 737,000. That we've built up considerably over the last 4 years through the sale of surplus equipment, the actual fleet reduction. We reduced the fleet by a couple of vehicles. As part of my plan to determine what our baseline should be. And we've built it up over the last 4 years by $532,000. So we've made considerable progress in the reserve. So I don't have my spreadsheet with me here, but I've set it up so that we're doing a few things. I want to manage the fleet responsibly. So I only want to buy equipment that'll do multiple things for us. I want to look at equipment and determine what our, now that we're tracking our maintenance costs, I can find that threshold where we're actually, there's a threshold where you're spending X number of dollars on maintenance,
Yeah.
and the residual value of the equipment, a number of factors come in to tell you that I should be replacing it. And also only buying the number of fleet vehicles that we actually need. So a lot of the surplus sales were things that, like for example, we had 3 backhoes, we're down to 2, we sold one last year. Well, the third backhoe came from the landfill that we no longer have. So in reality, we didn't need that vehicle, because prior to that, we were operating with 2, and we are now. And it seemed to be working just fine. We sold the excavator and a few other items.
That is where funded year 2.
That was part of the $532,000 that we've increased the reserve. So anyways, I've projected the fleet replacement costs over a 10-year period. And with a $350,000 annual addition to the reserve, we come out in 10 years with a higher balance than we currently have to start the cycle over again. I think it works out right now at about $800,000 after the 10-year period, and that's after replacing quite a number of units. Now, some units, like items that we use for ice and snow removal, they're subjected to salt for 4 months out of the year. On average, you get about 10 years out of that equipment. Other units, the way you can control your expenditures is to do condition assessments, extend the useful life of the unit. For example, like a vehicle that a supervisor would drive. You might get 20 years out of that unit because it's not being heavily loaded with tools and equipment, materials, etc. So I've taken all those items into account over the 10-year period. I've actually projected the addition of another unit based on, estimation of staff increase over the years. So basically, I've worked it out that $350,000 is the optimal annual contribution. We're a little bit heavy on the spending in the first 2 to 3 years because we're behind. We've deferred a lot of replacements. But the lowest the reserve ever gets with that contribution is about $218,000. So we never actually deplete the reserve. Ebbs and flows over the years. So like I say, I'm still refining some of the numbers, getting some costing on different pieces of equipment, and that's including buying equipment that will be more efficient for us and will help staff actually accomplish their jobs more safely and more efficiently. So that's where I'm going with it, and that's how I came up with the $350,000.
What units are you planning to get rid of that you have that, take a grab, one truck there you want to get rid of, like the International?
Yeah, I didn't load my spreadsheet onto here, I wish I had, but
Yeah.
I can bring it for next meeting. So I've determined that we actually need 3, we used to have 4 or 5 tons for winter maintenance. I've determined over the last 4 years that we actually need 3, because there's always a time where one goes down, just the way it is. So, I mean, that's built in there, purchase of a 3rd one, delaying the sale of one of the ones we have now, and then replenishing on that
So
one too.
that was my question earlier about keeping that in the fleet, you're saying keep it in the fleet?
223, keep in the fleet, push it out, extend the useful life.
Like it'll be like.
So we're operating 3
Not a
vehicles.
first out truck, it'll be a reserve truck.
Yeah, well, it'll be running because, you know, we typically
Okay.
can use that amount. But push that replacement out for about 4, I think it's year 4 or year 5. And so we're constantly running 3. So, yeah, about 3 vehicle additions are built into this, that reserve contribution. Some of the vehicles that need replaced, we've got a number of 2006 Chevys that are, well, they're approaching 15 years now. And the biggest thing for us is basically rust. We have a crane tractor that we use to pull sewage pumps, and we're squeaking by with the crane certification every year, but the frame of the truck is starting to deteriorate, so that's, for example, in the next year's plan of replacements. So, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units right now that the mechanic reports are nearing the end of their useful life. And I also factor risk into, like, you know, what's the risk of not replacing this vehicle versus another one, for example, depending on usage, type of use, that kind of thing. So we have 5 trucks that are 2006 vintage. And that's one of the drawbacks of buying
So it's
5
big year,
trucks
right?
in 1
At
year.
the same
That's right.
time,
Because they
yeah.
all come due at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to stagger them.
Spread them out.
Yeah, I agree.
So the majority of the, like, decline on the plow trucks and that's just salt in the roads, could it, that each way?
Yeah.
So like, is there, I know obviously they're busy in ship, or the guys obviously, do they hose them down periodically for maintenance of the trucks?
Yeah, but it depends on the weather.
Yeah.
If you're -10,
Yeah.
that's tough to do. You know, really, I mean, if we were to build a new facility, we'd have a heated wash bay.
Yeah.
You pull the truck in and you have a hot water.
But I like your train of thought though, because I guarantee keeping them clean is gonna make them last longer.
Yeah. I mean, I got like one of those hot pressure washers, but I mean, like I said, even if it's still freezing, hot water, it freezes, obviously even probably faster.
Well, it creates a hazard in the yard too at the wash bay because people are slipping all over the place, hurting themselves. Yeah, I mean, a new facility, you have a heated wash bay where you pull in, just like a car
Ideally.
wash,
Yeah.
and you actually have a mezzanine where you stand up and you can get into it. Those are the things that you need to build into a new facility so that you can extend the useful life of your equipment.
Yeah.
That's just for one.
Before my time, I'm not sure.
It wasn't like a full collection system type wash, right?
Just
Just
concrete.
pad with the standpipe.
The 2 F550s, you know, for doing your brine and all, everything like that is way cheaper to run, cheaper truck, newer, you know, but these, the 5 tons are pretty expensive to run.
They are, but the 550s are really designed for local roads.
Yes.
We actually exceed the maximum recommended speed for plowing with those plows.
Yeah.
Something like 25 kilometers an hour. Wow. That's pretty tough to do.
Yeah. But for the brine and all stuff like that, they're really good.
Typically, the 5-ton trucks will be doing Flood Hook Road around the airport,
Yeah.
Cockwell Lake Road, Othello, Ross Road, some of those long runs. Where you can get up to a safe operating speed and get some work accomplished.
Yeah.
That's what we typically go for.
All right, anything else there, Kevin?
I think that's it.
Is that it for tonight, Mr. Curtis?
Yes, if the council's got any direction for me, for what they'd like to see for the next meeting, just let me know. Otherwise,
You want any, council, want any
if
different
there's
scenarios?
any real changes to input here, so
Do we have money to cover all these wishes?
it's balanced.
No.
That's great.
I love the presentation, you guys do a great job. You do.
They want to think a little bit about it, absorb what happened tonight, and get back to you by email the next couple of days?
Yeah, any changes you might want to see or scenarios, just email me. We're scheduled for next Wednesday, so.
Next Wednesday, March the 4th, is our next meeting, so if you give them some more lead time than that, I mean, it'd be great.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I would need a couple days anyways to get, you know, just kind of this type of thing put together for you. Ideally, if I had it Monday morning, that would be.
That's a good ask, that's a fair ask. But Councilor Stewart.
I'm just curious, has there been any consideration to look at the cost of vandalism on our budget? So I know Public Works spends a lot of time going around and replacing signs and taking off graffiti and just dealing with the nuisance of vandalism. I'm just wondering if you've ever thought about trying to see how that cost has affected the community.
We used to actually account for vandalism on a few items, but what we found is staff weren't actually devoting their time to that count, and therefore it wasn't really accurately being tracked.
Okay.
So if it was a sign that was damaged, and it would actually classify as vandalism, it was just kind of going to signs maintenance instead, so. When I looked at the numbers, I thought, well, I'm not really accurately tracking that, so we decided just to simplify it and not track it any further.
What about the doors on the washroom? That's pretty big.
Yeah, that's ongoing, yeah. We've got actually money in here under washrooms, contracts. To fix up memorial and six because of the damage that's been done. So we've been repairing it, moving it along, but, you know, until we find a solution with dealing with some of these issues we have down here, it's just gonna continue, so.
I imagine it's quite a high number of trying to.
Yeah, I mean, they basically rip apart the partitions. The amount of damage that's done in there is just incredible.
We still looking at cameras and things like that, Public Works here.
Other,
Fencing's all done.
the fencing's done, yeah.
Works and everything.
Yeah, I mean, they'll keep the honest personnel, but,
That was in the budget before I.
we had it in the budget before, and then I got a quote, and I thought the quote was a little high, and then the security company that we have, I've asked him, you know, because what they do is they set up cameras that are motion tripped. And so as soon as it trips, they can see what's going on their phone or laptop, and then they respond. It's on the radar, because I'd like cameras out at the PCC as well, because it's been broken into there a number of times. But I'm trying to work it out so that we can build it into our security contract. And install the cameras, because if we set it up with our alarm companies, then they're gonna have to take the time to get a hold of our security companies.
Dispatch some.
Whereas if it's set up and they can see it and respond right away, that's the best bet. It's not 24-hour surveillance with the camera, it's motion activated, but you know, it's far less costly than.
Have we considered hiring someone for nights from, say, 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, walking around town, trying to keep the town safe? We don't have that in the budget.
No, I mean, we pay the security company in town to patrol our public works yard. And actually, when there was no security company in town, we got hit 3 or 4 times, and since they brought me back on,
Do we pay them to go around town the parks and the washrooms and?
They have put a proposal together,
They have,
Councilor.
it was on their original.
No, it's not in our budget, but they put a proposal together and gave it to John.
Okay.
We got it in our email.
Yeah, we got that.
That-
We got it in our email.
Yeah.
No, it was
A few months ago.
a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
But nothing's happened since then,
No.
so it might be something we should consider.
So, out at my Valley Helicopters, that stop sign there was getting run over just about daily. Somebody, the same person, anyway, they put some barriers up there, so it is quit. That was very brilliant, just a few concrete things, so it's gonna be pretty tough to get. But all stuff like that takes time and costs money every time, all these little things to figure out how to get around it.
Any other questions for staff tonight?
No, sir.
All right, motion to adjourn. Close the meeting. Do a second, all those in favor?